good to have our guests that we want to appreciate you. Some of you, you're not so much our guests, it's for the family from another congregation there, but we're glad to see you here this morning. Appreciate Mirani leading us from what fellowship. That's my lesson on that fellowship. All right. From Acts chapter 2, verses 42 to verse number 47. So we're going to share this lesson. Give us a chance to get meetings with one another as we get into some additional things on today. Lesson, Church of Christ, Jerusalem, first century. When you look at that, we're pictured as a praying, a worshiping church, a giving, a loving church, socially influential church, teaching and preaching church, a visible church, a fellowship, an exciting church. Who would want to be a member of a church like this? The church made in the first century, the Bible says in Acts 2 and verse 47, praising God and having faith with all the Lord added to the church of their number daily who would be in the church. What I want to do, I want to focus on the fellowship aspect of the church. For in verse 42 of Acts chapter 2, Bible says they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and the fellowship, to the breaking of bread and the prayer. The word fellowship in the Greek means common share. They are more than just courteous strangers. It is a sharing of one another, burden and blessing. Weeping and rejoicing and sweetness and strength. Matter of fact, God understood that human beings were made for fellowship, friendship, or companionship. Classic text for me went in Genesis 18, it says, "I good for man to be alone." Matter of fact, they asked Jesus the greatest question, Mark chapter 12 and verse 28 to 30. Asked him, what is the greatest commandment in the law? And he said, that thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, mind, soul, and strength. All right. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Jesus really says simply that nothing is more important than relationship. From the beginning to the end, let us know how relationships are important. In the beginning, God created you and I for relationship. And He made you to relate to Him and also to one another. Even when you look at the Old Testament in Deuteronomy chapter 5, and Exodus chapter 20, when you see the Ten Commandments, the first four commandments deal with man's relationship to God. And the other six deal with man's relationship to man. Miss out on relationships, you miss out on main reason for God on planet Earth. A life without relationship may be a simpler life, but it'll be an empty life. God wants us to put the highest value on relationships, first of all to Him and also to one another. And because people have not placed a high value on relationships, what we see in our world is a lot of hurt and loneliness. The world has reached its greatest numerical population, but it has not limited the fact that there's still a lot of loneliness. People have never lived closer together as we do in our urban world, yet they have never felt farther apart. Because let me tell you, if you be around a lot of folks, feel lonely. You can be wealthy and lonely. You can be popular and lonely. You can be beautiful and lonely. You can even be married and lonely. You can be in a crowd and lonely. Sometimes you can be in a church and lonely. And so everybody wants loneliness from time to time. But God wants us to learn how to have fellowship one with another. There are numerous reasons why loneliness comes. Number one, when we look at some of the causes of loneliness, sometimes we have loneliness because of transition. Life is full of transition at various stages in life. Growing older and changes associated with it can cause loneliness. The fact that you go to your first school as a kid can cause loneliness. And in a new job, retiring for some folks is loneliness. Sometimes the fellowship of their job is the most important fellowship for some people. Death of a loved one or a spouse can cause loneliness. So sometimes loneliness comes as a result of transition in life. Sometimes, number two, loneliness comes as a result of separation. There's two types of separation. First of all, there's isolation of faith. You are not around the person that you care about. It may be because they are in the military. It may be out of town on a business trip. A family may move from across the country and no longer around you. The empty nest syndrome when children move out of the house and get on their own and go off the town. So you can have loneliness because of the isolation of space. But also, there's another loneliness that's worse than that type of loneliness, and that's the isolation of spirit. In other words, David talks about that in Psalm 142 and verse 4. In the King James Version, he said, no man cares for my soul. Loneliness is the feeling of being cut off from other people, deserted and banished from their company. There are a lot of folks are loneliness, they experience loneliness, even though they're around folks because they're cut off in the loneliness of isolation of spirit. In other words, we need friendly relationship with others as badly as we need water, as badly as we need air, because God has created human beings for a relationship. But also, not only does the loneliness come because of transition, not only does loneliness come because of separation, but also loneliness can come as a result of opposition. What do you mean by that? Because you remind me of Paul in 2 Timothy chapter 4 and verse 14, when he said, Alexander the accomplishment did me much evil. In other words, suffering rejection, being misunderstood, humiliated, embarrassed, or attacked can cause loneliness. The temptation when this occurs, when we attack by folks, when we are hurt by people, what we use one came to my support, but everyone deserted me. May not be held against him. You can see the pain in Paul's voice when he thought that those who should have been on his side, those who should have supported him, should have been there. And sometimes because of rejection, there is loneliness. And let me tell you that we need a fellowship with one another because there are so many lonely people in our world today. Well, let me tell you something. Even the wise man Solomon, he had to tell us about how to relationship and how we need one another. If you turn your Bible to a familiar text in Ecclesiastes chapter 4. Ecclesiastes chapter 4. We're going to look at verses 9 through verse number 12. And listen to how Paul, Solomon talks about the importance of relationship. I'm emphasizing that now because even though we have a lot of folks in our world today, there's still a lot of lonely folks there. Well, when we look at Ecclesiastes chapter 4 and verse 9 through verse number 12, listen to what the wise man said. He says, two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. Also, if two lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of three strings is not quickly broken. What are you saying here, Solomon? Well, here in the fourth chapter of the book of Ecclesiastes, Solomon deals with relationships and really the chapter tells us about four types of men. In verse number 4 of Ecclesiastes chapter 4, he tells us about the industrious man, or the businessman. In verse number 5, he tells us about the idle man. In verse number 6, he tells us about the integrator or the balanced man. But then in verse 7 and verse 8, he tells us about the independent man. The man who said, I don't need anybody. I can make it all by myself. Today is a culture of independent individuals. What happens that say they don't need anybody. And even in the Lord's church, we have what we call spiritual orphans who think they don't need anybody, who think they can make it by themselves. And so you have members instead of enjoying fellowship with another, they are focusing on isolation. But God has set it up that human beings need one another, especially in the Lord's church. And so Solomon, as a result of dealing with this man who thinks you don't need any man, he considered the importance of relationship in verse 9 through verse 12. There was a Jewish proverb that said, a foolish man is like a man deprived of his left hand and his right hand. No, with his left hand. In other words, he lets us know that yes, you have two hands. You need both of your hands because if you use one of your hands, you can't do as much as you can do with both of your hands. So here, he let us know, let me tell you, the two are better than one. Why are they better than one, preacher? Number one, in verse number 9, two are better than one when it comes to work. You get more done. That's why the Bible calls the church a body. In 1 Corinthians chapter 12, you have the hand, you have the feet, you have the eyes. Every part of the body is important. Every part of the body is needed. Just like you need every part of the body physically to have a healthy body, you need the very part of the body in the church to have a healthy church there. And so, number one, when it comes to the working, you can do difficult jobs together. In terms of other, you get so much more done as a result of working in verse number 9. The one when it comes to working, even in the Lord's church. Two are better than one. In verse number 10, when it comes to walking, what you mean by it? There are some dangerous roads in life. Physically, emotionally and spiritually. Physically, you can fall down, and so therefore you need some help walking when you fall down. Emotionally, during times of crisis, you need others because what can happen when others, when you deal with a crisis, you're caught up in a crisis, the resources that are available to you. But we have other folks around you, resources, they can see the help, they can see that you're able to accomplish or overcome whatever crisis that you're dealing with. And even spiritually, you need one another as you live for the Lord, walking in the Lord's way. How do you know that? Because you go to Galatians, chapter 6, verse 1 and 2. Listen to what Paul says. Paul said in Galatians chapter 6, verse 1 and 2. If someone is caught in a sin, you who live by the Spirit can restore that person to watch yourself. For you also may be sinners, bearing each other's burden. And this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. What are you saying? He's saying that not only do you need people helping you physically, not only do you need people helping you emotionally, but also spiritually. You need your brothers and sisters to help you to stay strong in Christ. Because sometimes we miss the mark, and we need accountability, and we need people to help us as we strive to live in our home. Amen. But not only is it when it comes to walk, but also when it comes in verse 11, he let us know that when it comes to walk, he does the idea that being and it happens the only way they can be warm alone is to have a lot of place. But here he's saying in verse 11, put another warm because of this. But from a relationship, what happens, everybody needs to be loved and needs to love other folks. One of the worst things that can happen is what they call solitary confinement. When you put a man or a woman in solitary confinement, they often lose their mind. Why? Because of the fact that people need relationships. They need folk around them. They need to be able to fellowship with one another. And so when you decide to here, is all of you love somebody and love other folks in return. And not only are two better than one when it comes to war, also watch care. Watch care. Verse number 12. You got chapter 4. One may be overpowered, but two can defend themselves. One of the chapter 5 and verse 8. The Bible says they consider that death as a foreign mind, whom he may devour. When you look at the animal kingdom, one of the things that the lion likes to do when it's running after the or whatever is to isolate them from the rest of the crowd. He isolates them, and then what they do, they go after the lonely or isolated, weak or victim. And as a result of that, they're able to kill them. The devil loves isolated Christians. He loves who think they don't need anybody and try to do it all by themselves. And so here, he let us know we need watch them. And look out for us because we can't make it out. Brown started off with the number 1, and then goes to number 2 in verse 9. Then he called with number 3 in verse number 12. In other words, the Bible that we need one another, what a fellowship. I'm emphasizing something here because one of the things that I see in the church is that we are missing out on being around one another. And let me tell you that we can never go as strong as we should go without the fellowship of one another. Well, wrong. God is that in the corner. That God that Lord is helping us. In John chapter 13, verse 34, 35, because emphasize it. Sometimes you got to repeat some things because sometimes folks don't get it the first time. Sometimes we have to be reminded of some things that we already know. So let us know how important it is. Listen to what Jesus said. God, God, let us know what our badge of discipleship is, or our identifying mark. This is what he says in verse 34 and 35 of John. He said in verse 34, a new command I give, that you love one another. And God, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another. Jesus said, a new command. Wait a minute, Lord. How is it? Did you talk about love in your Leviticus 19, verse 18? Yes, he did. What is new in three ways? Number one is new in our love one another. Jesus said, I'm not talking about you loving your neighbor. I'm talking about you loving your brother. They try in the New Testament to praise one another in you. 40 times by Paul himself. But Jesus, I want you to have a one another relationship. I want you to love one another. I want you to pray for one another. I want you to care one another. I want you to bear with one another. I want you to bear one another's burden. I want you to accept one another. I want you to encourage one another. I want you to understand how important one another is in the church. I want you to understand how important your brothers and sisters are in the church. It's all about one another. It's not just about you anymore. Once you become a Christian, once you become a child of God, it's about one another. You have fair responsibility. Fair responsibility with one another in the Lord's church. First of all, he said, I want you to understand that I'm not talking about you loving your neighbor. I want you to understand you have a great relationship with one another. You live to all men, but especially those in the household of faith. We are born the same. That's right. We have the same. We wear the same. Christian. God is our God. Jesus is our God. We are one of the same. So the Lord is saying, I want you to understand about the importance of relationship in the church of Christ. Brothers and sisters in Christ. So, first of all, you got to understand, you got to learn how to love one another. One of the things when you read the Bible, you see how the Lord teaches one another. But not only that, he said, not only is it new when it comes to it is new measure. Notice he said, and I have loved you. I'm not saying that you love others as yourself. I'm saying now, I want you to love others as I love you. The neighbor, that's good to love your neighbor, but the Lord understands that sometimes folks don't love themselves, so they can't love anybody else. And so the Lord said, let me change the standard. It's not about how much you love yourself, it's how much you love others. I want you to use me as a standard. I want you to understand that just like I love you, I want you to love your brothers and sisters in the church. Therefore, nobody in the Lord's kingdom can say that they are not loved because Jesus loves everybody in the church. I remind them of the kids who can sing the song, Jesus loves me. This I know because the Bible tells me so. In other words, Jesus said, I want you to love one another as I love you. In other words, I love you not when, not just because of, but in spite of. That's a powerful love. And that's what you loving you. I want you to learn how to do the same thing with your brother. That's why Christianity is so much deeper. Yeah. Lord teaches us how to live as a Christian. Not only, you know, not only is it true, but also it's good for person. There all been no that you are my disciples by the love that you have one toward another. Yeah. In other words, you say you're identifying no bad with the how you love one another. Now let me didn't say that identifying more with be by your worship service or your hospitality. Although that's important. Different. He didn't say I'm more bishop on your baptism. That's not what he did. He didn't even say it was the sign on the door. He said that identifying more for folks that know that you are my disciple when you love one another. Well, why are you saying that, Lord? Because Jesus understood that in the world as a whole, long time is really backstab, jealous, and hurt, distrust, competition. So Jesus said, no, I don't want church. I want the Lord's church to be known for love and for and the heart. In other words, I want you to learn to fight it sometimes. Matter of fact, the devil's greatest danger is the church. You know what I mean? When the church is attacked from the outside, you're going to notice that it always goes. When the church is attacked from the inside, that's when it is. Whether you deal with your home, whether you deal with church, don't matter. Divide and conquer. Joy in organization. Joy. Joy. The Lord says, what happened to the church? The first thing. Look at Acts chapter 3. Chapter 3. They're doing great. Acts chapter 4. They're doing great. But then what happened in Acts chapter 5? The first problem. And then Acts chapter 6. Then when there was some kind of preachers, preachers and Jews. So the division on the inside. Church is strong. But you can find what a fellowship. One for five. We need to be strong one another. The question somebody is, how have this relation? Quick, number one. I think too many people with that superficial deal, they rule, try to express it, and I understand, you know, they're always trying to play to bring an audience, but when you play to an audience of one, God, those that he, so one of the things that I'm going to I don't want you to somebody else, God, like, number two, God is not all about you, depend on one another. But I need you, I want you to do everything for me. Church also about your careful. Number three, simple. That's three. One to the person. Empathy means sympathy for you that I can only imagine what you're going through, if I was in that same situation. He's peaceful. He was in a person. And so sometimes when you lose somebody, you need somebody to understand your hurt. Say, hey, not only do you need sympathy, not I can't. Number four, you have to be merciful. Mercy. All of us struggle with something. We're a work in progress and not work. None of us are perfect. So we need one another if somebody that you get. But number five, really, there are no big eyes in this. Although we have different roles, doesn't mean that we are one another. Every role in the church. Church. Number six, courage, respecting, being God. So we have to have that. Number seven, only a person will share information about themselves. You have to know that you're not going to. And so you have to learn how. First, I want to put anybody to hold it. Only time you don't somebody. Then the last three. The third and how to be the relationship with the other kids now. Let us start. Fellowship is because a lot of hurt. Fellowship is important because once more people are going to be raised, you're not going to get the basic stuff. Fellowship is important because it's time. You have to get it. So, first thing, Lord tells us so, but it's very powerful what it does. But to take myself, not only is it important in terms of God, fellowship with God, but the first perfect thing, a lot of times folks have already started getting weak already, but the first physical thing, the first chapter 10. What he's saying that you see one of the I just don't feel like it. But get up and go to work and do anything based up on do it because it's like it. Thank you. So sometimes you don't feel like it. When you get to church, don't figure out so one reason why it's so important is that fellowship is also encouraged. Because you are not in place. Like when I'm at number two, it's so of you and the Christian mind. or around those in the world. Either somebody, it might be that all the way around the world, not around Christians, is the world is full of that. Don't be like when our kids report a food. It's like sitting on a lot. Don't throw a lot that can board. A lot in full water. Boom, turned up more and more. I don't realize that it's dying because the lots don't realize that the water is hot. Same thing. Get around the wrong environment. Realize that you get weaker. And we're so far out there, we try to figure out how do I get this far out there? We start doing some things. Going back to the place we got far away from it. Far away because he wanted to do some stuff at home. That's what the devil is. When you get farther and farther away from Christian, you know, farther you get spiritual and spiritual over and all of a sudden, with the devil, but slowly, you understand. Evil comes. And so, fellowship, one encouragement, one encouragement. You commit yourself to the Lord and one around the Lord. What does it take my child of love? You bring the word, one with yourself, by the word of God. It also is very whether it's Christ. You have to believe that he really he can. He wants you. Can you do it on whatever you want? Well, Lord, I'm strong for whatever. No, you can't do that. That's what he says. So you know exactly what it is. So Christian. That's why he told us Acts chapter 2. That's what makes it go. And you can be willing to your way of doing things and do things the Lord's way. The Bible repentance. He kept saying, you want to won't change. It won't cause God. I said, no, that's not the way it works. If you want salvation, then you got to confess Jesus to be the Son of God. In verse 9, then you got to get one another. The two are one of the body. Force of the body makes the body. Part is missing. Is recognized. Part is missing. Part is not. Same thing in church. We miss you. We need you to help God. Daily. Let me say, that's it. You need to come. Rededicate your life. The child of God. Why don't you come and sing this stuff? within me, magic. There's no voice I need. When the tones above me, open the door for me. If I believe I call thee, I will abide with thee. And Lord, without me saving, and Lord, within and while I'm still oh, Spirit of me, open the door for me. If I believe I call thee, I will abide with door of my heart open wide. Though he renews and Jesus, and he shall make up and sing the Lord.